Hey, everybody. Welcome to the June edition of the Principles of the 12 Steps. My name is Lara, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Lara.
And we are in the sixth month of 2025. And if you've missed any of these recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel, along with lots of amazing speakers and some interviews of old timers in the Seattle area. And just check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Um, Thanks everybody for joining us here today. And Stephen and Nancy and the Third Legacy Committee are um, sponsoring this awesome workshop that we've got going. So I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Well, thank you, Lara. Steve, alcoholic. And as she said, we're in month 6, and the corresponding principle is willingness. And just to open this up about willingness, I had a couple of words thanks to Chat GPT also. In Alcoholics Anonymous, willingness is a central spiritual principle. It appears explicitly in step 6, too. Willingness in AA means an open-minded, humble readiness to grow, change, and let go of old behaviors, even if we don't yet know how. It's not about perfection or total understanding. It's about being ready to begin. And um, in the big book, willingness is often called the foundation of spiritual progress. Again, in Bill's story in the big book, he says willingness, honesty, and open mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. Without willingness, even the best advice or support won't help. AA sees it as a gateway to healing. And with this principle of willingness and looking at it, I just found it kind of easier to explain willingness or comprehend willingness by seeing what it wasn't. But that's for me later on. Today, Marty's going to kick us off. And so I'm going to turn it to you, Marty. Thank you so much for joining us again. And Marty and his wife, Claudia, have been with us from the beginning, representing District 46 and representing it well. So to you, Marty.
Well, thank you, Steve. My name's Marty. I am an alcoholic. As always, it's an honor and privilege, to share in the meeting. Thank you to everyone for their service to this particular meeting. And topics can be didactic, which is to say, I can, tend to become like a lecture, and that's what I want to avoid. I want to talk more about my personal experience with it. Although I can talk a little bit about what a willingness means to me, and it's interesting. What you mentioned is also repeated at the end of Appendix 3. In the back of the book, I think it's page 568, and where they repeat that in italics again, exactly what you just said about it's one of the essentials of recovery. Of course, I didn't know anything about willingness, like so many other things, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. And what I was practicing was willfulness. And I really didn't know at the time that that was a character defect. It mentions in the book, probably in the 12 of 12 as well, self-will run riot. I was running on self-will and confusing that with willingness. So I walked through the door, and of course, as I've said many times, part of my story is I was introduced to I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous by a friend at the time when I was struggling with trying to figure it out. And he introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I spent 30 days going to meetings on and off and not doing what was suggested. Ended up picking up a drink, but I went back out and found about him and came back in. And some things happened that first day I walked back in. And one of them was this, that I demonstrated willingness, probably unknowingly at the time, because I had absolutely surrendered. One of the definitions, I was looking up, definitions as I was doing my research for this. And they called it willingness as cheerful compliance. Well, that certainly wasn't me. And, and then I came to learn that, compliance versus surrender from Dr. Tebow, but that I had to just surrender. I just completely surrendered when I walked back through the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I remember my first sponsor asked me a couple of questions when I asked him to be my sponsor. And he said, he said, are you willing to take direction? And are you willing to go to any lengths? So, and I was like, yes, of course, that was my response, because I knew that was the appropriate response. And I had to think about that for a little bit, about the willingness to take direction and the willingness to go to any lengths. Again, not thoroughly understanding what that meant, what willingness meant in that regard. And then, so over time, like I've said many times, I've learned everything I've learned about recovery, I've learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. So, and some of the things I learned about willingness was, the willingness to ask for help, the willingness to listen, the willingness to participate. And these were all so essential in my recovery, as we've already stated. And then, once the drink problem was solved and I began to deal with the life's problems, what I learned was about willingness to be of service, to turn my thoughts to others, to abandon self and turn my thoughts to others. And the willingness to be of service was a huge one. I dragged my feet on that for a long time. And not knowing the benefits of it, of course, still running on self-will in that regard. But I did get into service, and I've been in service at the group level, and then, in the general service level, and in the district level, etc. So and I know this is step 6, but it brings me back to step 1. So I think there's willingness in every step, but step 1, I think I was reading somewhere where step 1 is where I made the initial adjustment, from willfulness to willingness. And like I said, at the time, I didn't know it, but I've learned that over time. And it really has bled into all aspects of my life. So just about an hour before the meeting, I was out in the garden pulling weeds, because they come back at night while I'm sleeping. And I'm out pulling these weeds, and I'm thinking, I'm willing to pull the weeds. then I'm thinking, am I willing? Yes, I am willing, you know. and and I realize I just have to, if I want to grow the vegetables, I have to be willing to do the work, and that's just like my recovery. If I want to reap the benefits of sobriety, which is for me peace of mind and a calm heart, a calm and open heart, then I just have to stay willing. So anyway, I hope you guys got something out of that. And with that, I will pass. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marty. And Nancy?
Oh, thank you, Stephen. And thank you, Marty. I love what you shared. And my name is Nancy, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey,
And I hope I
Nancy.
can say that I am willing. I am willing. I'm willing to be here. You know, one time I was speaking at a meeting. This was a long time ago, but Steve and I were speaking at a meeting at Fremont on Aurora. It was a long time ago, and it's a group of people that I didn't know, and the group is a little different than the audience that I'm used to looking at, right, or used to being with. And as I started to speak, I just had the thought that there is one thing that we all had in common. We all, every person in the room, no matter the age or place in life they were currently experiencing, everyone was there because they were willing to be there. So we shared this willingness. None of us would be here right now without our willingness, right? And sometimes when I was first in the program, I worried about my level of willingness. Like, oh, what if I'm not willing enough? What if I I fail at the willingness level that I should have in order to get well? I felt like I was not willing to do a lot of those steps that I only had read on the wall. But yet I was there. So there was a little willingness to be there. And without any achievement on my part at all, there was zero achievement, just willingness to be in the room. And it was pointed out to me then that was enough to make a beginning, that little bit of willingness, right? And with that, I don't know if the book talks about like that we could build a firm foundation, but willingness, as Stephen mentioned in the beginning, is one of the elements that is indispensable, right? So I used to ask myself, well, how would I know if I'm willing? That maybe that I even ask for help, in prayer or meditation, that I'm asking. That means I'm wanting help. I'm willing to receive, which is the definition, much like you read, Marty, that I had read, that it was a consent to receive. And something that I may not be able to see from where I am, but I am willing to receive an idea, a perspective that I currently cannot find. And I think our willingness grows in AA. The longer we stay around, our willingness grows because we begin to feel the fruits of that willingness, which is this sense of expansion and this a sense of safety, that things that I had no idea about, or all the things that I thought I needed to be safe and secure, were not true. And that this growing relationship with God and with sticking with the principles that we are studying each month, that would be the way. When I'm resistant, And I've been around long enough to where I can tell when my resistance is up, right? There's this kind of no, this kind of refusal to consider that I'm just right. And I want to stop there. But I am willing. I eventually find my willingness. As soon as I see the resistance, I know I'm crossing back into the willingness territory. As soon as I even see the resistance, that's willingness to see. Um, I found a prayer many years ago that helped me so much to understand this principle. And I'll share a few lines of it because maybe it would help someone else. I was so drawn to it because what struck me immediately was how honest this prayer was and how honestly I could say it. And it just, the first few lines were just this, like, higher power, I believe what I see and what I feel and what I think. And I'm willing not to. So just that expression of I saying I'm willing not to be alone. I'm willing to set aside my fear. I'm willing to set aside my judgment. I'm willing to see the truth. And I'm asking you to show me. And I used that prayer so much because of the place of pure honesty that it came to me in. Just that I believe what I see. I believe what I think. I think I was just, mistreated. And so, but just to say, but I'm willing to see it differently. I'm willing to receive another interpretation, one that doesn't cause me to suffer. So it's like all willingness is for me is this willingness is providing the consent and asking for another way to see. My only part is to provide the consent and God does the rest. I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to forgive. I'm willing to see something differently. Willing to set aside everything I think I know, right? That's a prayer that many of us have used. But I can see where willingness is indispensable. Something else that I read to highlight how important willingness is that this little essay I read on willingness said that we are not healed through our practice. We are healed through our willingness. We are healed through our willingness because I would never do any practice unless I was willing. So it all starts with this willingness, this consent to maybe even be happy at the possibility of being wrong about the way I see something now. And then open to receive another interpretation. So I'll pass with that.
Thanks, Nancy. And Cindy?
Hi, Cindy Alcoholic. On the top of my journal, it says that that the past is a key, not the lock. Somebody said that in a meeting just recently, and the key is willingness. I just got that today, getting ready for this. It's like for me, I had no idea. I had no idea what to expect. That everything inside my own head was not working. and my expectations and that I could do it wasn't working. So my first practice step in willingness, practice willingness was saying I need help. And I got way more than I expected. I I got people who cared about me, and I got a set of directions, and they were just simple directions. I was going to a wedding 3 days sober and terrified. And Brigitte had told somebody at the first meeting I went to, and I didn't realize she had. And I was surrounded by women with, okay, this is what you do at a wedding. And it it was so much more than I expected. And the willingness to do what people were telling me, to go to meetings, and I didn't do any of this perfectly. I mean, I still make silly mistakes like well, I don't have it on now, but wearing political t-shirts. I didn't realize you weren't supposed to do that. Nobody told me I wasn't supposed to do that. Anyway, so I still make mistakes, and the the willingness to just do those things made it so that my cravings disappeared. I thought that was a flippin' miracle. That was the biggest miracle, to sit down on the couch and be sitting there knitting and watching TV and go, holy crap, I don't want a glass of wine. That was amazing. Who would have thought that willingness to do things that I was told, and the expansion of my spiritual life, really, that I wasn't in control anymore, would make my cravings disappear. So this has been an amazing journey for me, to follow, to go through the fourth step and look at the way that I looked at things and take responsibility and just pray for a way to see things differently. It took a long time. These guys know, because I was pretty stuck for a while, and it's changed. And I can look at people that I used to look at with a roll of the eyes and a sarcastic comment and be totally be totally happy. And that's not me. I mean, that's stuff outside of me. That is my higher power. So the initial willingness, I feel like it is practice, that I am practicing for my next step into willingness, because I still have steps to take. There are still things that are hard and rigid and seem like they won't open. And if I pray about them and keep listening for people's experiences, that I feel like they'll open. So I just wanted to read, there's only one key, and it's called willingness. This is step 3 of the 12 and 12. Once unlocked by willingness, the door opens almost of itself. And looking through it, we shall see a pathway beside which is an inscription. It reads, "This is the way to a faith that works." Thanks. That's the end.
Thank you, Cindy. And John, thank you so much for joining us. You're up.
Well, I'm John and I am an alcoholic. And I have to tell you, I feel so much better from coming today. And all of you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I used to think that willingness was just a stupid topic. I really did. And now I actually get it. What Cindy said, it is the key, you know. But anyway, and I didn't feel good this morning, and I really didn't want to come today, but I thought, don't worry, just share what's going on. Share what's going on, right? Honestly, because it does apply to willingness. And so then I was going to kind of do what Marty said, just kind of plug in what my experience is today. Um, there's a saying in A that says that nothing changes if nothing changes. It's very simple but very true, very important, including my thinking, right? And my behavior, and my behavior. So I'm going through something I haven't gone through before. It's a pulmonary issue, has to do with my breathing, and I'm having occasional attacks that frankly scare me because I literally am gasping for breath. I'm not the only one that's gone through this. It's, but it is what's happening, and I'm not used to it. And I seem to get a doozy of this happening in the middle of the night, which happened last night. Now my husband is up, and when it happened, I went downstairs to really to stay calm, and really have a cup of tea. And I can hardly talk to him because I can hardly breathe, And it's trash night, and he'd just taken out the trash, and he had a conniption over the fact that the tea bag didn't make it to and I just freaking lost it. I freaking lost it. Now I can hardly breathe, but I found the energy to scream, F you, F you, F you. And then he responded, and it turned into some really unfortunate things were shouted and said, So I messed up. I messed up in every way. I messed up physically and what mentally was going on with that and the fear. And then I'm totally triggered from what just happened. And my point is that when something like this would happen, I would go into automatic pilot. And these same things, all these behaviors and thought patterns would go on. And I've progressed in AA enough now to know when this is happening. And it's a simple prayer that, am I willing to say? And it's not change Craig, it's help me, as Nancy said, forgive and to see things differently, see things correctly. Can I see the truth behind the evidence instead of I'm just triggered, and I'm in long-term sobriety, right? And so I did. I just sat down, regardless. I just sat down with the tea and and when I talk about the thinking, it's not that I'm worried about saying something that I might have to make an amend for, and there is that. But I'm now conscious of just my thinking, my embossing the problem that actually does have an effect. Because all that stuff gets like a trash compactor taken down to my subconscious, really. And if I want something different, I got to stop doing that and allow, because allow this power that I pray to, right? And so that's what happened. And again, it's just not falling into the patterns, being willing. What was really funny, it was odd today, because when I started getting relief and I started getting not so mad at him, I thought, well, I can't be not mad at him. I need to be mad at him. No, it's working. It's working. And I was at KFC, I bought him some Cheetos. I'm saying, buy him a little treat.
Nancy buys me Fritos.
You um, you know, and allow the untangling of this. Allow the healing, It's just something, life is filled with these kind of things. This happened to be a doozy, and there are, I'm finding all kinds of smaller opportunities. But when Cindy said practice, willingness. And I never would have understood that. I just wouldn't. And and I am long-term sobriety, and it's only been, in the last couple handfuls of years that I've taken this program really seriously. Really seriously. But it's okay. Everybody has their journey. Everybody has their path. Mine was mine, and I don't know. I'm so glad I've stuck with it. All right. I hope I did. And I only want to say I less and less push my effort button. That's pretty funny. I like that. Less and less. All right. Thank
Oh, thanks, John. And geez, I've got to say, for me, here we are on our sixth principle, and I've had a powerful, um, a powerful learning experience looking at willingness. Like you mentioned, John, if the topic was willingness, that seemed like a pretty neutral topic. I would stay for that meeting unless I thought it was more boring than go to the other room. And in the beginning, um, like most things, I thought I knew. I just I just knew how things are, and especially about willingness. Well, yeah, I'm willing. I'm here, aren't I? But uh, I've come to see that for me, there's willingness and there's contempt. And I can't find middle ground on those two. And like I would say in AA in the beginning, people would say, well, Steve, you got to do this and you got to do that. And I'm willing to listen to what you say, but in my mind, and as I'm going to say, as a result of the viciousness of alcoholism and the poison and cancer that was in my mind, I didn't have the ability to be willing. Like in our book, it says, if you have decided you want what we have, and I had to think, what do they have that I want? Well, I could find people in AA that they almost didn't have to tell me. They had peaceful, meaningful, useful lives. And that was so far away from me in every area. And my first few years, all I did was hang around first step meetings that people every day was a brand new drama of horror. And I fit right in there. And there was always some people in the back, that just had this aura of peacefulness about them. And they were happy to invite me or others like me into their conversations but was I willing to do what they did? We read at almost every meeting. If you've decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it. But I wasn't willing and didn't know that I wasn't willing. I could say the words, but I didn't know what willingness was. And I think Nancy mentioned it about willingness can be gradual. And that was really helpful to me because I would say, or I would take great offense if somebody said, hey, you're not willing to do the work, Steve. Now, here's a time I'm not doing any of it, but I'd take great offense if I was accused of not doing it. But I was there. Like Nancy mentioned that one meeting at Freeman, I was there. So there was some willingness. And I got to have an experience with willingness at a sponsor that was a long, long time ago. And he said, well, we were talking about willingness and open-mindedness. And he said, how's your degree of willingness, Steve? And I said, oh, like 100%. I'm on fire. I'm doing the steps. I've got a few years of sobriety now. And he said, are you willing to investigate the evidence that might suggest you're not an alcoholic? And I was really offended. And I said, no, I mean, God, I've got to, no, what, are you crazy? And he said, I'm not crazy. I'm the one that's at peace. And he said, well, so much for willingness then, because I would say I was willing, but I had concrete fixed ideas. So I'm sure I'm willing to go to any length. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. But what I didn't know is behind that was as long as it makes sense to me. If you're asking me to do something like write down my part in the horror of a life I had, I couldn't do it. When I first tried inventory on my own, I can't even believe I'm sharing this, let alone I did it. I was doing inventory on my own, you know, I don't need help. And I get to the fourth column, and the best I could come up with was like, well, I got to put something in the fourth column, so I'll put self-centered and selfish. I should have had novels written in the fourth column about my part, but the best I could see was, um, you know, sure, I'm not perfect. I acted selfishly, or I could have done better. But yet, my second column, you know, what did other people do to me? That's where the novels were. I could remember concrete examples of wrongs done to me from second grade. And who was sitting around me and what clothes I was wearing and what just all that stuff. Um, because I how things worked in my mind, which again I think is just a great example of how alcoholism works in the mental illness. I just couldn't see it, and I didn't know that I couldn't see it. And so, with that gradual degree of willingness, again, I'm showing up at the meetings, and um, and I'm showing up filled with condemnation and judgment about everybody else, and which I may or may not share after the meeting with the group of people I'm hanging out with. Um, but gradually I came, and I got to see that healing for me was seemed to correspond with the degree that I was willing to look at things differently, and not only look at things differently, but Nancy said it a few times, actually see that I had made a mistake, or in other words, I was wrong. And um, in the years that have passed since then, lots of times, I can't say every time, I I'm happy to be wrong. I want to see where I'm wrong, because I'm in a situation where I think I'm right and I'm miserable. So I don't want to be I don't want to be miserable, so I don't want to be right about the way I'm thinking. And am I willing to make the effort, use the tools that have been given to us, me in AA, and see things differently? And so I get to have an experience, sometimes a lot of many times in the day, if I want it. Am I willing to see things in a way where I'm going to be at peace? Or do I still have that alcoholic thinking back there where, you know, I'm right about this, I'm miserable, I'm pissed off, but I'm right? And more often now than ever before, I can see where that contradiction, where that's just insane. And so, even talking about the principle of willingness in this group, and just in other areas in life, I get to see where I couldn't see before. I think somebody said this a lot, and it might have even been you, John, that sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And I think one of the healing power and grace of AA meetings are you can hear somebody else's experience, and it can spark that, oh, I didn't see it that way. Nobody, and somebody's not addressing me directly saying, hey, Stephen, do this or don't do this. They're just sharing their own experience, and I can match it, and then I can hear what they did, and it's like a gateway opens up. Oh, hey, I could do that too. And um and life changes. I found that when my perspective changes, my life changes. And just a sec, I just can't see the screen yet. Oh, if it is it Megan, I just wanted to welcome you to our group. I couldn't see the name from there. And Marty mentioned that you might be joining us, and you just wanted to listen to what we have to say on this Zoom. But I wanted to give you a chance to chime in if you had any comments to make. And it's okay if you don't. It's just this ends up being recorded on our YouTube channel, and who knows, maybe somebody else will listen to it in the world.
Megan and I are into my seat, and I appreciate the heads up about the recording. Although Marty did tell me ahead of time because he knows me. Yeah, this was a wonderful talk. Willingness is I think it's a gift, kind of like desperation and accountability that we don't really see in those gifts, but they are. Yeah, I think I'm good, but thank you for having me.
Oh, and thank you for joining us. And I gotta say, I love your screensaver. And
She's busy.
oh, Lara's busy saving lives out there. She usually wraps this up. We're at the Seattle intergroup office. So anybody else want to double dip, I guess is the AA expression. And if not, just thank on behalf of the Third Legacy group. Thank you all for joining us. And we typically end with the responsibility prayer. So, oh, Nancy, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one maybe final thing that maybe because I questioned my own level of willingness so much and had this undetermined amount of willingness that I thought was needed that I never had. The line always got pushed farther and farther out. But just to tell myself that something in me is already willing. Something in me is already willing. I trust that, and I will nurture that, and then kind of let go of trying to rethink, a strategy, because if I'm rethinking a strategy, then I'm blocking myself from an answer that could come from beyond the way I usually think. So just that something in us is already willing, and that is something to celebrate and be very grateful for. Okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Nancy. And I think I've said this before, but we're in a little conference room at the intergroup office, and we're just a short ways west of the Boeing field. And Marty, the planes are just continually coming and landing. They look like they're 10 feet up from us. And I keep thinking, Marty knows how to do that. And it's the same thought when I first got into AA about seeing people that they didn't even have to tell me. They recovered from alcoholism. They were happy people. They know how to do it. So this room keeps you in our minds. Again, thanks for joining us, and we can close with the responsibility prayer.
Who's responsible?
I'm responsible.
So
I am responsible whenever
anyone,
anywhere
reaches out
for help.
I want the hand of
AA
AA
always
always
to
to
be
be
there.
there. And for
And
that,
I
I am
am
responsible.
willing to be responsible.
And John, good going on the Cheetos.
John, I'm so proud of you.
I actually want her to fatten them up.
Okay, well, looking forward to next month with everybody and see y'all later.
Take care.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks, Marty. Thanks, John.
Sure.
Thanks, Cindy.